Today's episode, kind of want to focus on a question that has been circulating around not just the MAC conference, but the group of five or whatever number they're at now, non-Power 4 conferences. What does it look like going forward with the NIL and all this stuff? A couple things right out the gate. How does the MAC survive? How can the MAC survive in this NIL format? What does it look like? I think number one, we're just going to dive right in. I think number one has to be former players of these schools, graduates that have gone on to be successful in other fields or even successful in the NFL or other professional sports. They got to obviously provide money to the NIL collective. I think Max Crosby with Eastern Michigan, I think he's done some stuff. But there has to be money there for them to be competitive. There has to be a reason for a guy to choose a Western and Eastern, a Ball State, a Kent State, over maybe a Purdue, a Minnesota, because they're never going to compete with your Ohio States, your Michigans, even Michigan State. Maybe right now you could a little bit, but the big hitters, the blue bloods, never happening. It's just never going to happen. But how can they compete with some of the smaller schools? How can some of these you compete with a Vanderbilt, maybe Kentucky, maybe Mississippi State right now? What is the formula? Well, I think it starts with alumni. I think alumni start and provide money. That's going to be a huge, huge help and a huge start to it. I think on the other side of it, I think something else that they got to do, there has to be some kind of incentive for people to want to give money outside of just, I hope my team does good. Because we don't run into a ton of fans that a MAC school is their team. I like Western, I like Eastern, I like Central, but Michigan's my team, or Kentucky's my team, or Louisville, or so on and so forth. You can go down the entire list. For me, I like all the MAC schools. I'm a Tennessee fan. That's my school. That's my favorite team. I know a lot of my friends. I got a good buddy of mine, huge fan of the MAC. He's an Alabama fan. What's the incentive for a guy like that to want those teams to succeed? And I think, you look at what, for example, I can take what Tennessee's doing with the ticket prices. They added they're more expensive now. And it's called, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but essentially I think it goes to the NIL fund, part of the ticket sales. Which, hey, sweet, guys are making money from tickets. I think that's a good thing. Don't love the increase in ticket prices when they're already super expensive to begin with. But I think there is some lore to that, but big schools can get away with that because they have so much money, and it's not you, I, or the third person that's a fan of the school. If I go to the game and, okay, $15 of my ticket goes to the NIL fund, there's 100,000 of us here, that makes a difference. How do you compete with that, though? Because there's no ROI to me, per se. Obviously the bigger the NIL collective is, the better players we are able to get, and so on and so forth. And that's fine. You can't do that at the small schools, though, because A, they're not selling out games. They're not getting 100,000 people at these games. They're trying to get 10,000 people at these games. And, you look at the crowds, especially on a action night, you're not seeing a bunch. So I think it starts with alumni. I think that's phase one. You got to get alumni involved. And I'm not just talking football alumni. I'm talking people that just graduated with a bachelor's degree there. Get them involved. Even if they don't like football, there's got to be a way you can get them involved to help this NIL collective thing out. I think number two is you got to get the students involved. I don't think you're going to get a college kid to necessarily add money to the NIL collective. But what you can do is incentivize students to go to the games. A game atmosphere is a big thing to a recruit. It might not seem like it on the grand scheme of it all. When you have how much money I'm going to get, academics is probably low on the totem pole for a lot of guys now, but that's a part of it. Campus atmosphere, all these kind of things. Coaching staff. You might think, game day atmosphere might be a little lower on the totem pole, and probably is, but it can be a big selling point. If you're between school A and school B, and they're very close, it's a very close, you're not sure which one to pick between. And in game A that you go to with the team, they have a sold-out crowd, and it's going crazy, and the stadium might not be as big. Let's say the stadium holds 20,000, and let's say it's filled to the brim, and it's roaring the whole game. And then School B is a stadium that holds 60,000, but it's at 20,000 capacity. What game day atmosphere is better? Right? So you've got to incentivize students to go to these games, at least for the first half. I don't know what that looks like, whether you do some concession deal, free tickets. Maybe you. This might be a crazy thing here, so academia come after me, but maybe incentivize a little extra credit for a certain class. Hey, you go to the game, bring your ticket, 10-5, 10 points. Because there's going to be kids that need that extra credit, and they might actually take you up on that. You got to get the students involved. The student body needs to be behind these players. Now, we got alumni. We got getting the students involved. This is where I mentioned it a little bit earlier, ROI. What's the return on investment? There's got to be a structure, a way you can almost turn this into an investment. And that's going to be dicey. And there might not actually be monetary gain given back. But there needs to be something. Something that you, I, a third person, someone that just likes the MAC, just loves MAC football. Maybe our favorite team's not in there. That's fine. But loves MAC football, loves those weeknight games, wants to see the league succeed. That can, hey, I want to pledge $100 to this. And, $100 obviously at once isn't a lot. But you get a lot of people doing it, and it adds up over time. But there needs to be something like, I need to know what this dollar is going to and how it's going to affect XYZ school. I don't know what that looks like. That's something I'll probably dive into in a later day. It's just an idea that hit me, and I was like, I don't know the technicality or the practicality or how you would even do this, but there needs to be some kind of investment like, not necessarily a monetary return, but something like that to give fans a reason to get involved. Because right now, this is what I will say. Ferris State, another school in Michigan. They dominate Division II. Grand Valley, also another dominant Division II program. What is the incentive to go to Western, Eastern, Ball State, all these schools? What's the incentive to go over, thinking the Michigan schools, Eastern, Western, and Central? What's the incentive to go to those three over a Grand Valley or a Ferris? Because honestly, I don't know. It's Division I. You got that. You get to play some Division I games. That's great. But look at Ferris's quarterback, just committed to Ole Miss. Will he start? I don't know. But he dominated Division II. He got a chance, and he's going to the SEC, and not just an SEC school, but a very, very good SEC school. How does that translate? What does that mean? I don't know. There's a lot of guys from Ferris that I saw in the transfer portal going to bigger schools. One went to West Virginia, I believe. Grand Valley just sent some guys to the NFL. Grand Valley sent a lot of guys to the NFL. Probably more than some of these MAC schools. Don't have the numbers off the top of my head, so I could be wrong. Could be right. I don't know. But as it stands, if your goal is to get to high-level Division I or the NFL, what's the better route for you right now? Is it going to the MAC and trying to transfer out, or is it staying in the MAC? We saw 2 guys drafted this year, a lot of undrafted free agents. Some guys got camp invites, all that great stuff. But as it stands, and this is just my opinion, it feels like it's a better opportunity to go to a high caliber Division II. I'm talking competing for national championships year in and year out. Not your mid to low or even your good. I'm talking the top, the cream of the crop, Division II schools over the MAC. Right now, as it stands, it feels like that might be the better option. Now, NIL money, I don't know. That's a whole different ballgame. But it just depends on what matters to you most. Because this is where the future of college football scares me with the last couple of years. The conference realignment, to me, should be startling to a college football fan, because we are getting to a point where it's going to start being just the big schools. And I've already seen a lot of stuff about a 14-team playoff now. That's the next step, they said. It's 14-team playoff. And it's like, okay, that's starting to add some wrinkles to it. The bowl games now, for the most part, are kind of set up like if you finish third in your conference, you play the fourth in this conference, and so on and so forth. And I don't like that setting. I think for some bowl games it's fine, but we're going to see a lot of similar matchups year in, year out. We're going to see the same conferences playing the same. I think there's a restructure there that needs to happen. This conference realignment, though, why is Northern Illinois going to be in the Mountain West? Why are they playing California teams, Hawaii teams, Wyoming, Utah? Why? Tell me what the value in that is. I don't know. Tell me what the value in Oregon and UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten. What's the value in that? Oh, we get the big games with Oregon, Ohio State, and Michigan and Oregon. Okay. Texas, Oklahoma joining the SEC. I don't like it. I liked the Big 12 the way it was. I liked the Big 12 not being Arizona and Arizona State. The dismantling of the Pac-12 to me was one of the worst things that's happened in college football in recent time. And I think we're going to start seeing it with the MAC. I think if Kent State doesn't turn it around, I don't know. I don't know how much longer they last in the conference or whether they last at the Division I level. You can't go winless multiple seasons and expect to stay. UMass coming back. We saw what happened last time UMass was in. It wasn't great. Is it going to be different this time? I don't know. Maybe bring Marshall back. Who knows? I think there's been good conference realignments in the past, and there's been bad ones. This is how I think conference realignment should work. I think, and it's never going to happen, but you should, if you could restructure it back to what it was, let's just say 2 years ago. 2 years ago, Pac-12 was still a thing. You have the Power 5, you have the Group of 5, and so forth. What I think should happen is I think that you should be able to move up and down. If you are a team in the Big Ten and you are just terrible year in, year out, you probably should go to the MAC. And then if you're in the MAC and you are dominant, you could probably go up to the Big Ten. And you could look at Conference USA and say that has connection with like the Big 12 or the SEC and so forth. And then the Sun Belt in the Mountain West with the Pac-12. And there's a lot of different things you could do. A lot. But I think just restructuring every year where it's like 13 teams are changing conferences that make zero sense, we're losing it. And all it's doing is hurting the MAC more than it's helping the MAC. Because one of the draws of the MAC is the schools themselves. Yes, the conference has its allure with its weeknight games, and that's great. Northern Illinois is going to be missed. It is very much going to be missed. UMass being added in, I'm indifferent on that. I think it's cool. They were in the MAC once. Welcome back. But Northern Illinois leaving. They're going to be missed. They're going to the Mountain West. Is the Mountain West maybe a higher tier than the MAC? Probably. UNLV, I think, has a chance of making the college football playoff this year. I said it here first. San Jose State also had some studs. There's some good schools in there. I think the MAC needs another season like the Western season, like the Northern Illinois with Jordan Lynch. That Western season with Zach Terrell and Corey Davis and row the boat, and they got on their run. They need that. They need some kind of juice. They need a team to dominate this year. They need a big upset. The Northern Illinois beating Notre Dame was everywhere. That took over the college football world for a week, and it was awesome. And that's what the MAC needs. It needs those moments. It's just tough that the last moment they had is a team that's in its last season with them. There needs to be another big moment because that's what is going to keep that conference alive. Because right now, outside looking in, I think the MAC is seen in a lot of these Group of 5 conferences. I think they're just seen as stepping stones, honestly. If you're maybe a lower star recruit, or you're maybe undersized, or you have some grade trouble, or you got some legal trouble, if you still have an offer from the MAC, I think these guys see it as, all right, I put my year or two in, I get some good tape, and I go. And then I go to the school, and then I have my chance at the pros. And can you blame them? No, you can't blame them. You can't. It's going to happen. It's a part of college football. But there needs to be something to incentivize these conferences to grow. And that's kind of where I don't have the solution. I can spitball ideas all day long. I don't have the solution. I don't know what it's going to take. I think the number one thing is the alumni. I really do. I think you got to encourage guys to be a part of the programs they were at. And there's been some studs to come through the MAC for football. And I'm sure throughout the world there's some studs that have gone on in the business world, the medical world, also in any other field that have gone to these colleges. Get them involved, incentivize them, get the kids in the games, and you gotta do something to get the stadiums full. I think it's Coastal Carolina that's doing. I still don't know if that's an April Fool's joke or not, by the way, and maybe I'm the only one who doesn't about the concessions. They're doing some free concession stuff. How will it last all season if it's true? I don't know. It's going to be hard to keep that afloat. I think there's definitely a way you can do it, but we'll have to see how that goes. On the other side of things, I think that there needs to lower the ticket prices. MAC games aren't expensive to begin with, but even when I was looking at the schedule, it was like prices starting at $64. It's like, okay, $64 for a football game ticket in the grand scheme of Division I. No, that's not bad because you're probably sitting somewhere decent. But lower them. It's you have to pick one avenue with these schools. You either have to lower ticket prices and keep your concession the same way they are, or keep your ticket prices the same and lower concession. And I will tell you probably if you lower, I don't actually know. I think that'd be an interesting study. What does better? Is higher ticket prices, lower concession, or vice versa? I think ticket giveaways are a good thing to do. You know, there's a plethora of solutions and options out there that in theory might work, in practice maybe not. I think you got to start trying though, because doing nothing, waiting to see what happens, is going to result in A, more teams leaving the MAC, B, possibly a situation where the MAC's just not in a great spot. And I think the waiting around is going to it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt teams, and it's going to hurt the conference, and I don't want to see that happen. I want to see the MAC thrive. I want to see it be the conference that I and a lot of college football fans together have loved for so long. But we don't want to lose those Tuesday night games. We don't want to lose any of that. We just want good football. I want it to go the right way. Who knows how it's going to happen. We'll talk more about this probably a lot throughout the summer. We'll be doing previews of teams as well, but I think this is a big question, a big looming question, and there's some people I want to bring on to talk to about this. I'm Coach Shaggy, got Nugget along with me, co-hosting this morning. Have a great Tuesday. I'm out.